We're back on the Marching to Madness College Basketball Podcast this morning with Georgia Tech head basketball coach Josh Pastner. He brings the Yellow Jackets into an up-tempo level on both ends of the floor. It complements their style of play. Coach Pastner took Georgia Tech to its first ACC tournament title in quite a while, 2 seasons ago, as Georgia Tech won the ACC tournament and made itself as a team in the NCAA tournament. Coach, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Ken. Appreciate it. Looking forward to talking some hoops.
Yeah, always. Hey, I was going to ask you, you played for 4 years for Lute Olson at Arizona. What are some things you still use from Coach Olson's attacks back in the day?
Well, what I would tell you is Coach Olson, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us, but he's one of the greatest to ever do it regardless of sport. The one thing about his teams are they were so good offensively and defensively as in terms of how hard they played. And, when people talk about great coaches, and there's a lot of them, obviously, all throughout sports, but when they talk about great coaches, one of the similarities with their teams, and I really believe this, is a lot of it is the simplicity that they do things with. They don't overcomplicate it. Coach Olson had so many great players, obviously, and he had great talent on his team. That being said, his teams were always, the things that he did were always simple. And I believe simple is powerful, Ken. Simple is powerful. And even like John Calipari I worked for, he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. You look at it, his teams were always really good offensively and defensively, but the things that they did were simple. Now, Coach Olson and Coach Calipari are 2 different personalities at 2 different ends of the spectrum, but the way they got to the end result and the end part of where they were trying to get to, they had the same philosophy in that respect. And part of that was keeping things very, very simple, playing hard, not overcomplicating things, and their teams were able to perfect that. And look, they had great players, but it's not always easy to coach great players because you've got to mesh the group together and have that group play as a cohesive unit so you have an opportunity to win. Chemistry, cohesiveness, all those things that go into it, that's part of the recipe for having successful teams.
Yeah, and like you say, I agree. God rest his soul. Luke was one of my all-time favorite coaches in any sport, So
he did so many great things for the community that people don't even know about. He's just Coach Lute Olson, obviously one of the greatest to ever coach, but also one of the greatest human beings at the same time as well.
Yeah. I enjoyed a conversation with him one time at an NBA game in Atlanta. I think it was maybe at a Final Four. The NBA game was on a Sunday, so that was the way I was able to be touched.
Well, it was. We would use a saying: you couldn't swing a bat without hitting a cat in the NBA because it's the Arizona Wildcats, because there were so many Arizona Wildcats from Coach Olson's time playing in the NBA. It's really amazing.
Sure. Hey, now you lose 2 solid scorers in Michael DeVoe and Jordan Usher. How do you manufacture the offense this season that they gave you last season?
Yeah. Look, I mean, those 2 are really good players, Jordan Usher and Michael DeVoe. Michael DeVoe was a 2-time All-ACC performer. We'll have to be really good at the things that we can be really good at. I know I really like our team. I mean, I think we can shoot it. There's a, I think we'll be better than what people think. But you're losing two high level scorers, high level performers. So as I was mentioning, we've got to be perfect at the things that we can control. Like, we can't be turning the ball over based on decision-based turnovers. We can't, be giving teams second and third chances. Now, most people know that we play a lot of zone, or we mix it up, mix our defenses. So sometimes we get stretched a tad bit, but we've got to be better at limiting teams to one shot. And as simple as this sounds, we've got to make free throws.
Mm-hmm.
Got to make free throws. And, but Ken, I like our group. And, the one thing about the ACC this year is what I would tell you is I think the ACC is going to be loaded and stacked. There's a lot of guys in the ACC that should have left, but they've come back because of either COVID. They got the COVID year plus the NIL.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a team like us who's trying to move up, because we had a lot of young guys last year, you need to be moving upwards. However, a lot of the teams were guys a couple years ago, they would never have stayed in college.
Yeah.
And a lot of these teams have these guys back where they shouldn't be in college. And it could be a situation where we're playing teams that on the floor, guys have NIL deals total on the floor worth over $1 million. And
wow.
And so it's literally like you're playing against pro teams in overseas basketball, and you're an amateur team as in terms of comparative NIL dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to be interesting this year. Now, again, it's legal, it's allowable, that's per the rules, but that has totally changed. That has totally changed, the dynamics of it all on, college athletics.
Sure. Now you've got Kyle Sturdivant. He's your leading returning scorer, good playmaker, and then Rodney Howard, a big man inside who shot 56.1% from the floor. Talk a little bit about, as these two players move ahead into what's going to be the 22-23 season. Talk a little bit about how they're going to be two of your keys.
Yeah, look, Kyle Sturdivant's a good player for us, as is Rodney Howard. They both were part of the ACC championship team that you mentioned at the beginning, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
I do think those guys, they're older. This is their fourth year in college.
Sure.
So, and I've said it many times, I believe the best way for Georgia Tech to be successful is get old and stay old.
Mm-hmm.
The older you are, the better we have a chance to be successful. And Rodney Howard's his fourth year in college. Kyle Sturdivant is fourth year in college. So we're going to need both gentlemen to play really well for us, play mature basketball, because they are, they're older guys in college athletics. And so we need that experience, that age, them being, 21, 22 years of age has got to pay off for us with their, with their maturation for this season.
Sure. Now Javon Franklin comes in from South Alabama. He was an all Sun Belt player a year ago. Then Deebo Coleman's on the perimeter, where he shot 41% from three last season. Talk about their abilities to mesh, into a lineup and then be able to carry a team.
Yeah. Look, Deebo Coleman's had a really good offseason. He's really changed his body.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the best freshman three-point shooters in the country last season. But he's really changed his game, where he's been able to score in different ways other than just, scoring from beyond the arc.
Sure.
He can do different things that allows you to that can get him to the free throw line, and he's not just a three-point shooter now. So, and he's changed his body. So we're really excited about Deebo Coleman. Javon Franklin, as you mentioned, is a transfer from South Alabama. Really good athlete. He's a good passer. He's a good player. And we're excited that we've got him part of our group. And I think he's going to have a really good year for us. You know, Ken, look, we don't have a lot of margin of error. Everyone's picked us last. We're better than that. But I do know for our team, we've got to be good at the things that we can control in the areas that I mentioned previously. So I love our group, and we're better than where we're picked, but we got to go produce it on the floor. And we don't have a lot of margin for error. Like, we've got to be sharp and solid every time we step on that floor with every single possession. I've told you this before, EPIP. Every possession is precious, and that's how we've got to look at it this year, literally every single possession.
Sure. I was curious about your thoughts on the rumors that are out there right now that the NCAA tournament is going to be expanded.
Well, I really hope they do expand.
Yeah.
You know, for a guy like, maybe for the media, Ken, because I know a lot of media members don't like it, and maybe for the fan that's not, I can understand where they're saying keep it as it is. But when you're in the profession, I hope they expand it and have more teams, because everything is judged on getting to the tournament.
Yeah.
So I really hope that they allow more teams into the NCAA tournament. But I can also understand where a media's perspective and or a fan's perspective, they might say, hey, keep it as it is, because what, that's what makes the tournament so great, less teams, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're in the profession and you're one of the coaches and everything is so dependent on making the tournament, you would like to have more opportunities and more chances to do that. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. My understanding is that the CBS Turner contract is set in stone through 2034 or something like that. Something to that.
Really?
So maybe they can eventually add it, but I don't know if they're able to add it. Again, I don't know how all this works. That's it's more on the contract side. Can it really happen anything in the short term? But look, I still think March, and this, Ken, because this is part of your podcast, is there any greater month of sports in the month of March, especially with college athletics?
Yeah, sure. There is none, in my opinion. I'm being a basketball guy. Hey, last thing, I was curious, in your opinion, when you think about analytics, as you coach and as your assistants coach and things, what are the analytics maybe you draw on most as analytics has become a big thing in all of sports?
Yeah, analytics has taken its life of its own, Ken. I mean, a lot of decisions are being made in all of sports, regardless of just not even basketball, but any sport, especially at the professional level, based on people who maybe don't even have a sports background, but really understand analytics.
Yeah.
And I think that has completely changed the sport. Now, as a coach, do I look at analytics? You're darn right I do. But but that being said, I also have to have a feel on what I want to do with our team. And what's the right way to play, and what lineups do you want to play? So as important as analytics are, and there's a huge importance in analytics in sports, I still say there's got to be a feel involved when you're making decisions from the coaching standpoint of it all. And so it's a balancing act, I think, of both. But there's no doubt that analytics has become a huge player in the sports world, and not just basketball, and not just in pro level, in college and even high school and everything else.
Sure. Coach Josh Pastner, ladies and gentlemen, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Coach, I appreciate your time here, and I'm glad I didn't mess your drive up this morning.
No, you didn't mess my drive up. I had it. I just got to the park. I just got. I had it in my holder there, so I was all good. Life is beautiful. Life's a blessing, and to be able to talk to you, Ken, it's another blessing. So I really appreciate you.